Hello everyone, and welcome to our video where we're going to talk about how to know when your baby is ready to start solid foods. A little history here. In 2002, the World Health Organization recommended that infants begin the introduction of complementary foods around 6 months. So this changed from 4 months or even earlier in some cases, but since then most major medical organizations and governing bodies have jumped on this train and have started to recommend starting solids around the age of 6 months. And this is due to the kidney, the digestive system being properly developed at this point, as well as a baby's chewing and swallowing skills generally being developed at this point as well. So at 6 months, infants do start to need additional nutrients beyond what they can get from breast milk. So for example, iron. So breast milk is generally a poor source of iron beyond 6 months. And so this is why we say, or the saying, food before one is just for fun, isn't quite right, because we do actually want our babies to get nutrition from the food that they're eating. But as they're starting out at 6 months, still the predominant source of their nutrition is going to be coming from breast milk or formula. So back to our history lesson now. So purees were originally given first because solids were generally started around 4 months before this 2002 recommendation from the World Health Organization. And at this age of 4 months, babies generally don't have the skills that they need to sit independently, to chew, to bring food to their mouths, etc. So that's why purees were started. And then the baby food industry also definitely had a play in influencing that as well. So when it comes to knowing when to start your baby on solids, there are a couple signs that you should be looking for. First, your baby should be sitting independently. Now, this doesn't mean that they need to be a 100% reliable sitter, but they should be able to sit independently by themselves, which also includes stable head and neck control. So I'm going to show a video here of my son sitting independently around 5.5 months, so you can see that he's a little wobbly, but he still is able to sit up on his own. All right, and it's also important to know that the age of a baby sitting independently does vary. So if your baby isn't sitting around 5.5 months, that's okay. Keep looking out for those signs and keep practicing with them. Practice those sitting skills to help them get there. Other signs that your baby is ready to start solids is bringing objects to their mouth. So here are some teether toys that I generally play with my son. And when they are able to bring it to their mouth to chew on, that's a great sign for starting solids. We want your baby to be grasping objects. Now, they don't need to be using the pincer grasp. So a pincer grasp is when they can grab things with their fingers like that. It is a myth that babies need the pincer grasp in order to start solids. They just need the palmar grasp, which means they hold something in their palm like this. If they can grasp an object, that's also a great sign for starting solids. We want your baby to be interested at meal times. So it's a great sign if you're holding baby on your lap while you're eating and they're reaching for their food, they're watching you eating. If you don't think that your baby is interested in your meal times, sit them at the table with you like we talked about in the preparation video and model to them what chewing looks like. Take a bite of food, get in their face, and chew, chew, chew. Show them how exciting and fun food can be. And then the last thing I want to talk about real quick is the tongue thrust reflex. So we don't want babies to automatically push food out of their mouth when it's placed in their mouth. So that's called the tongue thrust reflex. So anything in their mouth, they automatically push out. This reflex generally wanes over time. It's not something that like at 6 months, it's gone. That doesn't happen, but we do want the baby to be able to keep the food in their mouth and move it towards the back of their throat to swallow. So if your baby struggles with that, you can help them or help work on that with teether toys that reach their back molars that help with oral exploration. If you're concerned about this, that you feel like your baby is pushing food out constantly and they're well past the age of 6 months, then definitely explore working with a speech language pathologist at that point. And so one myth I want to bust for you is that hunger or night wakings is not a sign that your baby starts to need to eat food. So that's a common myth as well. If your baby starts waking in the night, that doesn't mean that they're ready for solids. It's likely related to other developmental reasons too, and feel free to provide them milk at that point if you so desire, breast milk or formula. And so the last thing I want to talk about readiness for starting solid foods is a couple things that as a parent you should be ready for. So first, you should have an open mindset, connect with your support network if you have one, and then plan for stress management. If you feel like you're an anxious person and you're stressed about things like choking or food allergies, have a way to cope with that stress so that mealtimes don't become a stressful experience for you and your child. Be ready for messy. Starting solids is messy. There is no way around it, and purposefully feeding to avoid mess can actually cause problems down the road in terms of sensory issues. So do what you need to do to embrace the mess, because it will be messy, and by embracing it, you and your baby will both be better off for it. And finally, you want to have a game plan, which is what this course is for. Okay, just kidding, guys. I have one more thing to add. So what I want to say here is really important. The signs that I've mentioned are developmental readiness signs for starting solids, and as you all know, your baby is not an exact clock, and every baby is different. Every baby develops different, and some babies may have these signs at 6 months and 2 weeks, and some babies might have these signs at 5 months and 2 weeks, and it's okay that there's a range of developmental readiness signs. I generally recommend if babies are displaying all the signs of readiness before 6 months that they typically shouldn't start before 5.5 months. I usually recommend parents wait until then. And then if your baby isn't showing these signs of readiness beyond 6.5 months, that's a good time when you should reach out to your pediatrician or pediatric dietitian for guidance on what to do, because we want your baby to start getting these nutrients that are important after the 6-month mark, but we want to do it in a safe way. And if your baby isn't sitting up, for example, it may not be safe to feed them like solid foods or baby-led weaning style foods. Big pieces we might need to start on purees until they're showing those developmental readiness signs, and that's a really important discussion to be having with your provider. And second, if your baby was born premature, we want to make sure that we are using their corrected age, unless otherwise directed by your pediatric dietitian or your pediatrician, for starting solids. We're going to be using their corrected age rather than their actual age for starting solids, because for premature babies, we typically see those developmental milestones develop according to those corrected ages for a little while in their childhood. So, all right, now that's actually it for the end of the video. I just wanted to give you some encouragement. If you are worried about your baby developing those signs, those readiness signs, reach out to your provider. Send me a DM on Instagram and I can help connect you with the right resources if you need it, and keep practicing those developmental skills like grasping objects and sitting to help them get there for starting solids.